Hello there. Welcome to the Maker Manager Money podcast, a podcast about entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, founders, business owners, and business partnerships. From startups to stay-ups, to inspire entrepreneurs to keep going and future entrepreneurs to just start. My name is Kyle Knowles, and I'm just trying to make some cool content at Kiln Lehigh on a Monday evening. Kiln provides working communities that are handcrafted and programmed to elevate lifestyle and performance. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Kiln is the lifetime fitness of co-working communities. And today we're recording in the Cottonwood conference room, right behind the break room. So you might hear some people cleaning up some glasses because it's in the evening right now. But today's guest is Guy Harding, founder, CEO, managing partner, and senior architect of Verisage, a software development firm that has delivered over 300 custom software development projects for clients ranging from startups to Fortune 500 companies and large governments. Guy is also the co-founder of V-School, which helps students build professional software skills through in-person and remote courses. Guy graduated from Brigham Young University with bachelor's and master's degrees in civil engineering. Guy, welcome to the Maker Manager Money podcast.
Thank you, Kyle.
Awesome. Where did you get the name Verisage from, and what does it mean?
Yeah. So Verisage is two words put together, veritas and sage. So veritas meaning true, and then sage being wisdom. And I think there's one of them's Latin and one of them's Greek. But so I just mashed those together, looking for a name that could have some meaning, but also was available.
Awesome. And so were you just going through the dictionary, or what were you doing to find that?
Well, I had this was 2002 when I did this, and I had a process of, I kind of wanted something along those lines to tell people that this, we've got your back and we're going to do right by you. But to my exposure to like custom software and stuff at that point was fairly limited, but I knew that many of the projects had failed and we wanted to be different than that. So we wanted the name to reflect that difference.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard a lot of war stories or horror stories of working with different kinds of development companies, and it's very hard to find good ones. So, yeah. So tell me about how you got into custom software development and, your career before that, working for someone else, and then deciding, I'm going to go out on my own.
Well, how long do we have? I've always wanted to be an innovator. I didn't know exactly what form that was when I was younger in grade school and middle school and high school. I thought I might want to be like at a think tank, because I used to read the Hardy Boys, if you remember that series of books about the young men who were scientists as well as good at everything else. And I thought, I could innovate, maybe go to be at a think tank and stuff. Well, my life didn't quite follow that path, but I found that I could innovate within companies. And when I started my own company, I really loved helping other companies innovate, and they'd come with ideas. So that journey from civil engineer, when I did my master's degree research in Guatemala in micro hydroelectric power stations. And that was just a lot of fun to be out there innovating and taking the resources that they had and we made a turbine, and then we found locations where to install the turbine and things like that to generate water for out in the fields, those composts. They didn't have electricity and stuff, so we would use the water to make electricity, and then they could power their schools and health centers and also some of their equipment. So that was the beginning. Then I graduated, and I came to I did civil engineering for 5 years, and during that time I found myself up at nights writing software, and even there was so much opportunity. Like within the company, I wrote software for doing stormwater and just water systems, pressurized water systems, distribution systems, modeling with GIS. And so that's like I'm staying up at night doing this, and and I wrote the software, and we actually went out to Boston to try to sell it, and the company didn't take on it. But that was, I kind of had the bug then. That's what I wanted to do. So in 1999, when the Y2K was happening, and companies were just hiring anybody who learned how to code, and I had coded through school, and I switched over to a company called Tenfold and helped them with their technology for a bit. And then 2002, I started my own company, kind of ran it on the side for a long time till about 2011, when I got a couple of contracts with Logitech, and I formed a team and kind of took off from there.
Oh, that's awesome. So how did you do that, running things on the side, just programming for different companies and just doing side work, basically nights and weekends, just programming?
Yeah, nights and weekends. The reason I founded the company in the beginning was I had a friend who actually, I've had a mix of different types of projects, especially when I was just me. So he wanted me to help him evaluate an oil project, and with my civil engineering background, especially in water resources, I looked at a lot of the technology they're using there and see if it was viable and stuff like that. And then I'd have people want me to help them with the website here and there. And so I didn't really advertise or didn't push it, but when people asked, I could say, yeah, I can help you, and you can pay me through my company. So.
And then, so how did you transition from, your engineering background? How did you learn to code, basically?
Yeah.
It was just on the job, or?
Yeah, I had a couple of classes in college. And even going back before then, when I was young, you have to be old to know this stuff, but my dad bought a TI 99 computer. And if you remember, those were the $100 from Texas Instruments, and you could actually program. They didn't have any persistent memory. I would type in my program, and I think it was BASIC. And every time we turned it off, I'd have to type it in all again. I turned it back on, but I played with that forever. And we had the voice emulator, so I was making the computer talk. And then in school, we got the Apple IIe's, I think they were, and Apple IIc's. And anyway, I wrote a 3D tic-tac-toe game and on one of those in grade school. And so I kind of had that bug from way young. I just knew that technology was a crazy powerful thing, and it spoke to me. So I just kind of kept doing that, whatever opportunity I could. Of course, 94, when the internet kind of became more available, and it was out in Mosaic, the browser came out, and looking at those different things, I tried to stay current. And then when the opportunity came, I jumped in. In college, I had the courses that qualified me for the next step at the turn of the century. But
nice.
I'm kind of old saying turn of the century.
Turn of the century. Not about our age, but about the century. Right?
Yeah.
What's the hardest part about being a business owner?
Oh my goodness. That's a good question. For me, I think it depends on your talents. Like if I was going to make it general, my hardest part has always been the sales and the marketing. I'm not super versed in that. I do really well if I can come and talk about a project and people can come in, I can whiteboard, I can help them realize their ideas. And generally in that sales environment, I have a pretty good close rate. That it's the generation of demand of leads and things like that. That's really hard for me. I love the building part of it, and I love the team. Like I love believing in young engineers and saying, yeah, go do it, and then seeing and helping them do it. Those are the things that I thrive on. And the hard part, I love talking to people about their ideas. It's just like getting the demand and the leads in is probably the hardest part for me.
So it sounds like you're a maker, though.
I think
what you
naturally,
like to do.
yeah.
Just as an architect and I guess as an engineer, you enjoy coming up with ideas and making things.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you compensate for maybe what's the hardest part of your business? Do you bring someone else in to do that, or what do you usually do?
Yeah. Originally, in fact, in 2011, right after I finished the Logitech projects, I was like, well, we've got the profits. We can either kind of let the team go and go our separate ways, or we can maybe partner with somebody and see what happens. And so I partnered with a sales guy, Michael Zaro, and he's now the CEO of V School. But yeah, we partnered and we kind of tag teamed a lot of the sales and stuff. And he did a great job. That's probably the easiest way to supplement your weaknesses is get somebody who's strong, whose strengths complement you.
Yeah, I agree. So if you were looking back at 2011, I guess, when you, that's when Verisage was really formed, was 2011? Am I getting the time?
Founded in 2002, but really I went
okay.
full time on it. We had a team, started going strong in 2011.
Okay. And so looking back at Guy in 2011 from Guy in 2023, what are some of the things that you would tell Guy of 2011 now that you've been, at this for well over a decade?
Wow. I'd probably say hang in there. And you know more than you think you do. Like trust your gut more. I've always come from, like my personality, I've always come from a very logical, theoretical perspective. And it's difficult for me to let go and just say, let's go try that. And so if I were to, like, looking back, probably trust my gut. And then it would have been really helpful to have just I don't even think it would have taken more than a couple of days of learning about business. It was kind of I kind of did a bunch of research and learned what I could, but to have maybe a mentor in business, that would probably be the biggest thing. Like, find somebody who's been there, done that, and get them to mentor you. Yeah, I think that'd probably be the biggest one.
What would be some of the things that mentor would teach you that you had to learn, I guess, the hard way?
The hard way, just how much it costs to do sales and marketing. So then you can really, you got to have that balanced perspective of your business. It's not all about engineering. I mean, coming from an engineering perspective, I'm like, wow, this is everything. This is my life. But there's more to it than that. And a mentor, especially one that has come from engineering, would be able to say, look, that's good, but you also have to do this, and you have to build this infrastructure right for it to be sustainable and do good.
Okay. So if someone was going into tech, I guess, and becoming a programmer today, what are some of the pieces of advice you'd give them? For example, like what kind of programming languages they should learn? How do they get into tech today?
Yeah. It depends on their background. But I've given this advice. Well, first off, it's a great field to be in. And I've given this advice 1,000 times. It's like, there's so much demand, and it won't go away no matter where industry you end up with. Everything, what's that famous quote? Everything, software is eating the world.
Yeah.
So everything's software. Everything is technology and more. There's just, every time I've dipped my toe into another industry, I just see opportunities abound there for applying technology if you can speak the language, if you know what you're doing. I know with AI now, it's a whole nother revolution. We're going to see where people who know how to get the AI to do what they need to do are going to be pushing forward businesses and being super valuable. So right now at this, depending, like if somebody were to come to me and say, hey, I've got a family, I've got bills to pay, but I do want to do this. I took my brother through this about 10 years ago, and he's an engineer now, but he was a construction worker, and he had a family, and he wanted to do something different. And so we met every week for a year or so, I think, and we talk about it, I'd give him the next assignment type of thing. This was pre-V School, so it was 14 or 15 years ago. And it was kind of gave me the idea that, hey, we could actually teach people to do this really quickly. And he was super motivated, and he did the work and paid the price, and he's now a software engineer in Omaha. So, but if you have to, there are ways to do it if you need to do it that way. If you have some capacity already, you could just go get a job doing it and then jump in with both feet. If you don't, or if you're not super comfortable with that, there are really good boot camps and V School. I would pitch V School as one of the preeminent ones that, we've got. Well, a little pitch for V School. The unique thing about V School is that all the incentives are aligned. So you don't graduate from V School until you have a job. And as long as you're pushing forward towards that objective, you're part of V School and you get the full support of everybody there. And there's 2 stages. So there's a lot of detail in that I won't go into, but just aligning that way really helps our outcomes be right. Like, you get a certificate, but what people come to V School for isn't a certificate, it's for a career change. It's to have a career in tech. And I just love what Michael's done with V School in that regard. And now it's all online too. So you can do it in person, but it's 99% of the people are online. They're going with the tutorials and it's competency based. And so you can go as fast as you can through it. Anyway, so there's a lot there. And I think, I believe we've hit with V School on the most optimum formula for that. I know different people are in different situations. If you're a young person who's in school, I'd say finish school, get your degree in computer science or an engineering field. Either, engineering teaches you how to think like a systems engineer, and that's really valuable in any of these systems that we're building. And you'll get coding and stuff in there too. So I'd say finish your degree and get going. But everybody's different, and I would say just don't stop, just do it.
Yeah. So Verisage 2011. Michael joins at some point after 2011 or around 2011?
2012 is, I think, when we formalized it.
Okay, so he's the sales marketing guy. You're going down this road. You're doing custom software development. What made you guys decide to open V School?
Oh, that's funny because we were both very innovative in that way. Like we both wanted to start. So the initial, like one of the things that we really bonded on was that we wanted to build something that would fund additional businesses, that would be able to have a group of businesses that we could then, like part of it was to build cool things and push industry. Part of it was to provide employment for all these smart people that we knew and just have a way that we could work together with everybody. And so V School was the first one that it started really catching root or taking root and taking hold. So what we noticed in the couple of years that we were running both V School and Verisage is that our profits, whenever we focused on one, the profits would go up, the revenues would go up. And when we focused on the other, the one would sag and the other would go. So we decided in 2016 to separate the two, and that he would run V School and that I would run Verisage. And so that's what we did.
Okay. So tell people how to get to V School, I guess, and kind of let's just stay on that topic for a minute. Like, what's the cost? What's the process? Those kinds of things.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Good pitch for V School. There's so vschool.io is the website, and there's a bunch of good information on there. The best way to really find out everything is just to reach out and talk to one of our sales guys, one of our, we don't call them sales, student success people.
So is it V-school or
no,
V
one
School?
word, V School.
Word.
Yeah.
V is in Victor.
School.io.
Yep. Okay.
And then cost-wise, there are several, like we do a lot of scholarships. We love the social impact. So there's a lot of help for minorities or underprivileged people to get in. In fact, we just did I think it's a $500,000 scholarship with Meta that they're giving us to promote. I don't remember which group, but there's a specific group that they want to have more of. And we've had, I've even had some of the top technology leaders in the state. I was at a meeting once of CIOs and CTOs, and they were talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. and I was just listening and taking notes and thinking about things. And then I heard the question was, where do you find diverse candidates? And one of the other leaders said, V School. It's like, oh, I got to go talk to him. 'Cause I hadn't really talked to him about V-School before, but it turns out that he was familiar with a lot of the social impact efforts that we've been doing there. But then cost-wise, there's several ways of addressing that. You can do this if you can qualify for a scholarship. That's great. If you're a veteran, we can do the VA loan. We're approved to do that. There's even income sharing agreements that we can do. So if you qualify for that, then you don't have to pay until you get your job, and then you pay a percentage, and you end up paying more than if you just pay it up front. But it's kind of priced so that it's good for everybody.
So there's some kind of guarantee on the back end when you finish that you're going to end up with a job, and you don't have to pay until that happens.
Until you're done, until you get that job.
Okay. It sounds very fascinating. And are you seeing a lot of people, a lot of interest still in tech and becoming programmers, those kinds of, okay.
Yeah, and it's changing. Like we don't follow the boot camp model anymore. We're more like I just talked about, you go at your own speed, but it's not like lackadaisical. We have support people assigned to you. You're moving forward, and and you get through it. We had one student. She was actually a blind student, and she got through it. She holds the record, 2.5 months of getting through all the curriculum, testing out of everything, and making sure that it's right. And then I don't remember which company she's with. She's with one of the larger corporations that has transformed her life. So I don't remember what your question was, but that was
just about interest in becoming a programmer.
Oh, that's right. And so the products, the curriculum, the courses we were expanding. So we've got full stack dev, we've got UX design, UX UI design, and we have now cybersecurity is our newest one. And there's a lot of buzz right now around AI. And so we're looking at that. Generally, Michael wants to be very careful about, he doesn't want to just jump on the latest fad. He wants to build something that we know we can have a pipeline and that it's going to go. So I personally think we should have an AI course, but I'm not the CEO anymore. So we'll see. But I think AI is going to revolutionize the world, and we'll have an AI course in short order so people can learn to be prompt engineers and kind of get the whole sense of what that is and be productive in it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just was watching a presentation today about trends in tech and mobile, and GPS just had so much going, especially in the academic side, so many papers and things. Mm-hmm. And apparently AI has that same trend for academic research. And a lot of those trends are the ones that
they're leading.
They're leading, and they're going to be around for a long time. Yeah. So I agree with you that AI is going to revolutionize so many different things, things we're not even thinking about right now. Yeah. So it's a really exciting time to be in tech. And do you feel like, is there any fear from, because I've seen programs written by AI, basically seen people put prompts in, and then it spits out like a webcam that follows human faces, and you're just like, whoa, so what? Yeah. I mean, is there any fear from you or other technologists that AI is going to just, eliminate all these programming jobs?
I'm not seeing that yet. I'm not fearful for that. I think it will increase our productivity. And for so long, there's just been so much to do in tech. And the promise of so many technologies still hasn't really been fulfilled. And I mean, it's kind of a classic maturity curve, and it's like, oh yeah, we've saturated this market, but even our mobile revolution hasn't saturated yet. There's still a ton of mobile functionality that needs to be done. So to me, the idea that we'll suddenly have AIs that do all that, I think we're generations away before an AI can actually, before we could have a business leader talk to an AI and have it spit out an app that actually works, like does everything. I think the next step will be programmers saying, write me a function to do this and make sure it's tested. I think that would be a huge step. And then it might progress on beyond that. We're getting into some really complex scenarios where even like the generative AI, I don't know that they could do it. And I don't know how much it will take to get to where they can do it. But so I'm not super worried about that. I think at the worst case our job titles might change to AI prompt engineer or something like that. That's the one that I've heard quite a bit. And maybe we end up, all the boring stuff gets automated in short order. That would be lovely.
Well, just even learning or testing and things like that. I mean, I think AI is going to be a huge help there.
Yeah.
Save people a lot of time. I also saw that, I mean, I can't remember the percentages I saw, but the idea of cloud computing, there's so many companies that are still have nothing in the cloud or very little in the cloud. Yeah. So there's still all that work to be done to move things as well. So I don't see it happening in my lifetime where, I mean, and the thing is you have to tell AI what to do. It's not like AI is just running around writing all these programs, eliminating companies and eliminating jobs on its own. And so, I think there's still a lot of work to be done, but that's exciting that you're doing so much good in the world with V School and creating opportunities for people. So back to the student who did it in like 2 months, were they just really crazy smart, or was it just a crazy amount of work? They were just like doing it 12 hours a day.
Yeah. I didn't talk to her myself, but and I've talked to Michael about her, and the core things that we've learned is that she was hyper focused, and her blindness was part of that focus. She could just shut everything else out because she had to get the computer prompts and to read things to her, and she had to be able to communicate that way to it. So I think that allowed her to be hyper focused. I think she was naturally gifted as well with this. It kind of came natural to her. I've seen other students struggle with perfectly bright students, but for some reason they struggle with a certain concept. Think about the first time you saw somebody try to understand a spreadsheet. That's one that a lot of people are familiar with. And it's like, oh yeah, I get it now. I just go do it. But when you first are presented with that grid of cells and, do something on it, you're like, I got to create a new paradigm. And so I think she just didn't have those blockers. And I think she just kind of smoothed right through a lot of those things where I've seen, perfectly great developers get stuck on a certain concept for days until they get somebody off. Well, that's one of the things we look for at V School. Like, are you stuck? Let's get you off of that, because it can take a 5-minute discussion and it saves you hours now. And that's kind of that's what I look for when I'm mentoring a young engineer as well. Are they stuck on things that really should be a 5-minute conversation and not a bang your head against the wall type of an experience.
And that's how you get them unstuck, is just explain it to them in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We had a really, telling experience with that. I had back in 2017, we went out to Ghana to teach. In the past, we've taken V School to different countries. We've gone to Kuwait. We've gone to Lebanon, Baghdad, not Baghdad, sorry, Lebanon, not Baghdad. And we went to Cape Coast in Ghana, and we taught 9 students how to code. And I hired 3 of them at Verisage when I got back, and then I hired 3 grads U.S. side. And the dynamic was like I could just sit there next to on the projects, and they 5-minute conversation or a 2-minute guy, what's going on here, and they're done. They're moving forward. Whereas I know I was trying to communicate with the engineers in Ghana. There's a lot of factors in this, so it's really anecdotal, but they would take 3 or 4 times as long. They couldn't reach out to me in 5 minutes. They'd have to Slack, and then I'd have to see it, and then we'd get back to them. So they might lose a day on something that was really a 5-minute conversation. So it's that type of support that we strive to provide at V School, and I think it's really critical. I think a lot of people who want to get into tech think they can't just simply because they run into roadblock after roadblock after roadblock like that. When I was first installing Linux and doing that, there wasn't a whole lot of support out on the BBSs and things like that. And so that's what I did. I just banged my head against the wall for weeks. And then I got it to run, and I told my wife, and she goes, "Oh, cool." but it was so gratifying to me. But that's the process that a lot of people they kind of they get into that, and they're like, "I just don't want to do it." But when really, if they just would have somebody take them across that next threshold, they'd be a great developer, a great programmer. And so,
yeah, I think out of fear or something, I never crossed that line. Always worked with developers, but never really thought that I had it in me to be able to do it.
Yeah, and there are a few that I've met that really, I just think that's not it's so far outside of their nature that they just shouldn't. but the vast majority, I've had two experiences. I'll tell another story.
Okay.
When we were first starting V School, there was what was she before? I don't remember. I think she was a stay-at-home mom, but she came into my office just in tears. Like, I can't do this, guy. This is so hard. I'm stuck. I've been at that. Everybody else is moving on. This is back when we were doing cohort-based stuff, and it was everybody's moving on. And I just said, look, you're smart. You can do this. Give it another week. You'll do it. And then the week later, she came back into my office. She was crying. She says, I did it. I did it. So I was like, that's happened over and over again. People can do it. So
nice. So, did you exhibit? It sounded like you exhibited programming tendencies or engineering tendencies from your childhood. Did you exhibit any entrepreneurial aspirations?
What would that look like?
A lemonade stand? I don't know.
I like playing lemonade stand on the old Apple IIes and Oregon Trail and Star Trek. I don't know. I like I said, I always wanted to be an innovator. I've always wanted to help people achieve dreams and build things. And I think that there's a natural extension to that as being an entrepreneur. Like that drive, like I didn't ever have a great affinity for studying the books of like financials and things like that. But it was very intriguing to me to understand how companies worked. And so I studied financials and I studied how to do accounting and why that's important. And so that was more, in my mind, a means to the end of being able to responsibly run businesses and responsibly consult with clients on things and kind of understand where they're coming from when they come in with a certain problem or if I have a problem with my business. So, but yeah, the entrepreneurial part of it, I think, is there because that's the place where you get to innovate.
Yeah. So you were working for someone else, and then what was the tipping point? Like, what was it that drove you to make the decision to at least start, Verisage?
Yeah. Well, so I was working at a civil engineering firm, and I had just gotten my professional engineer's license. And so if you know what that PE means, it's a big thing. I can stamp plans now for civil projects that says I've looked at it and that's my name on the line and everything. And I've only ever stamped 2 plans now because I stamped one plan, those 2 plans right when I got my PE license or projects I was working on. And then it was Y2K, and my friend called me up and said, hey, do you want to come interview for a job, programming with us? Because he and I had worked together at the Engineering Computer Graphics Lab at BYU. And so I said, sure, I'll come take a look at it. Well, long story short, they made a good offer, and I got in there. I got to work on the universal application part of the Tenfold company there, and that opened my eyes to a lot of good things. There's good architecture, good processes, and it was fascinating to me. And that was about 2002 when I started Verisage. My friend said, hey, can you look at this, like I said, and And that was kind of the tipping point of saying, yeah, I'll start my business. It was a safe, I dipped my toes into it. I didn't have to provide for my family yet and things from the business. And then I did startups, and let's see, I went from Tenfold to Allstate. Allstate was one of Tenfold's largest customers. I helped them go from, I was at 88% uptime to 99.9% uptime in a couple of years that we did the special project there. And then went from Allstate to, I had the bug. So I was looking at startups, and Allstate, I went from Allstate to a financial, I left Allstate and went to i.TV, I think it was. I'd have to look at my LinkedIn. I don't remember the sequence, but i.TV was an iPhone startup. We did the first TV and movie guide on the brand new iPhone. I don't remember which one it was, but it was when the App Store came out. So we were one of the first apps in the App Store. We went from 0 to 3 million users plus in a matter of months. And that was just fascinating to see. We would sit there and watch, and we had all our server clusters and everything managed so we could support the traffic and everything.
Wow. And then, so when you look back at your days of just starting to be an entrepreneur and running your business, what are some key things, some key learnings that you had during that formulation of a company and things like that? What were some of the learnings that if you look back on those days? Yeah.
Lessons that I will carry to my grave. So initially, I mean, it's wise to have a good partner. And, when my partner and I separated, we separated in really good terms. I still own a chunk of V School, and we have meetings regularly and stuff. But I credit Michael a lot with that, because separating a partnership is not easy. Mm-hmm. And usually it's on the heels of a challenge. And we did have that challenge in 2016. We had $3 million clients lined up, and I hired up, we saw the sales projections. We hired up, we had a great team of about 26 people ready to rock on this. And they all went away in the first quarter of the next year. And so that was, and at the same time, we were trying to split out to let V School run with that. And so that was a really difficult time. And I think it's hard to know beforehand, but who you are partnered with makes a huge difference in times like that. Like we just didn't, we rolled up our sleeves and did what we need to do. And we didn't point fingers or blame each other, and we're still great friends now. And I think you have to, if you have deficiencies, and we all do, you need to find people who complement those deficiencies, and you don't always get to pick who you're going to partner with. But I would say establishing that partnership right, in a good way, establishing those relationships. And that's probably something I would have done differently. And I don't know if Michael would have still partnered with me, but at that time, I probably would have brought him in on a slightly different structure, so that we could have had a stronger sales performance reward and incentive system, instead of, we kind of just came together as partners and said, we're just going to do this. And I didn't know how much it took to run a sales team and to be successful at sales. And if we could have done that, that would have been a lot more effective for our sales. As it is, we have done as I've mentioned to you before, we don't do advertising. It's all word of mouth. Mm-hmm. And and I still struggle with that. I still struggle with the sales part of it to get it right. So.
Okay. What are you excited about now in tech and the future of tech?
Yeah. I guess there's so much going on. And of course, there's a huge opportunity in AI, and just nobody really knows what that looks like. I think some of these established businesses have very clear roadmaps that they can they can optimize their workflows with AI. And there's, you can Google that, and there's a lot of articles on how to do that in sales and in different aspects of the business. But the winners I don't think the winners are going to be the people that just do that. There's a revolution waiting to happen there. And whoever figures that out is going to be, the next Facebook, the next Google, whatever. That's going to be a big deal. And so I'm excited by that. I have some ideas on that, and I'm excited by we're trying to transition Verisage. So one of the challenges that I've had with Verisage is that we really like startups and small businesses, but startups and small businesses have trouble paying for our services. Yeah. And so it's just expensive and relative to their budgets. So I want to create a product for businesses similar to what like the Tenfold application was, or the universal application was for Tenfold. The idea with that is that about 90% of the functionality that a business needs, and the universal application was targeted towards large enterprises, but like 90% of that you can build beforehand, and then you just put the pieces together. And it worked really well until it didn't, but it was really good for replacing those enterprise ERP type applications. And I feel like there's an opportunity now for small businesses, somebody to do something similar with the range of open source that is out there, and the cloud and the hosting and stuff. I hope I feel like I'm about 70-80% through development on this, because I'm leveraging all these open source things, and I can provide well, it's not even an ERP. I call it a business operating system to specific industries that they will be able to afford. In fact, I think we can do it for free for small businesses. Like you can start, and if you stay under a usage threshold, you can run it for free. And of course, if you go over that usage threshold, that means that you're making money. And so you should start paying some money for the system. But if you think about an operating system for a computer, this is what I'm building for our business. And so, everything that you need. And then a couple of key things is that since businesses are unique, we're not going to make every business fit a mold. So it's super customizable, super configurable. And I think there's a whole, if you think of Clayton Christensen's disruptive curve, there's a whole market of non-consumers right now. Or if they are consumers, they're consuming 16, 20 different apps to manage their business. And it takes an exceptional individual at that business, at that small business, to be able to really manage that. And oftentimes they just can't. They're throwing stuff together, cobbling things together. They're making decisions on bad information or just half information, incomplete information. So that's something I'm really excited about. I'm really excited. I was a CTO of the ERC specialists until April, or March. I think I finished. I helped them with their conversion from, they were all a no-code system, and they reached the limits of their no-code, so they needed to get more and more into a architected system. So I helped them do that. And then since then, that's, in terms of helping small businesses, that's probably the best offer out there for a business who's eligible. So if you're listening to this and you haven't applied for your ERC, reach out to me. We do it. I'm an affiliate of ERC Specialists, and I know their technology fairly deeply, and it's good. And we can do an eligibility assessment for free. And if you're eligible and choose to file, then I can help you get it filed. So in terms of just adding, that's probably the best offer I've ever been able to give anybody for custom custom software, because that's expensive, but for just in the business in general, it's helping you get your payroll tax money back.
So explain ERC a little bit.
Yeah.
What that is.
Yeah. So the Employee Retention Credit, it's part of the same act that was the Paycheck Protection Plan, PPP, and the EIDL. A lot of businesses have taken advantage of those. The ERC has been a little lesser known because it's a payroll on the payroll side of it, and so the accountants and the people who generally do the income tax side of things weren't nearly as familiar with it. In fact, when I did it for Verisage, I had to do it myself. I asked my accountant, I asked my payroll provider, and they're like, we can't help you. So I just did it. and it took a couple of days of actual work, just working through everything. And Verisage is a small business. If you have any amount of complexity in your business, you probably should get help. And ERC Specialist is great with that. So yeah, and it's up to, so the amounts are intriguing too. You can get up to $26,000 per employee, per W-2 employee that you've kept during COVID. And the calculation of that number is what's complicated. Is you have to go through and you have to be eligible under there's 3 ways you can be eligible. And then as you get into that, there's just an analysis that has to be done to determine how much you would be eligible for.
So you can help small and medium businesses fill out the paperwork, get it all submitted. And what are the numbers looking like the average companies, or what are some of the dollar amounts that are coming back?
Yeah, the average when I last checked was $270,000 for the companies getting back. So if you have 10 employees and they qualify for the full 26,000, that's 260,000. So it's significant, and I can't tell you the number of businesses that have. The testimonials of this has made a huge difference for us. It's saved our bacon. It's let us go to the next level. I know for Verisage, it saved my bacon. I was like, it's that much money, and I need to just do it. So that's what, and we did it for V School, and it was also very meaningful for V School. And then the other businesses that, you can see the testimonials out there, but it's a game maker, a game changer for a lot of small businesses in this climate.
Okay, and we'll put links to your affiliate program and contact information so that people can reach out to you so you can help them get those forms submitted.
Yep, and it's just, and you can just go out to verisagecustomsoftware.com/ERC, and it gets you in the right place.
Okay. Guy, were either of your parents entrepreneurs?
No. So my dad worked for the U.S. Postal Service and then for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And I grew up I was born in Salt Lake, grew up in Pennsylvania, and then in Berlin. And then we moved to Omaha, Nebraska for most of my schooling from 3rd grade on. So, but I'm not sure where I got that bug to be an entrepreneur, but they weren't. Some of a lot of my friends and my mentors growing up, some good friends of mine. Their dad was a VP of Peter Kiewit, and so that's a huge civil engineering construction firm. I think he gave me a piece of advice that has stuck with me, and I hope. I think I'm remembering it right anyway. But the advice was, Guy, you can do a lot more good for the world in business by trading with other countries than you can by being in the government or by making laws or rules. And that's always stuck with me. I want to make a difference in this world. That's part of the reason why we've been to Ghana and to Lebanon and to Kuwait, is that this is one of those, being in technology is one of those things you can do anywhere. You can get and become a part of the world economy, even if your local government isn't helpful that way. Sometimes, I'm not saying break any laws, but sometimes the local governments they're not helpful, and they don't have the infrastructure and the ability to help you with your business, you know. And I think of Ghana. I think I served a mission for the LDS Church in Bolivia, and I did my master's research in Guatemala. And so I've seen in several different places where you don't have the infrastructure, and you need to start somewhere. And my personal opinion, I agree with my mentor, is that if you start change with an economic reason, with a commercial, like Clayton Christensen's book, the Prosperity Paradox is a really good one on this. He's done the analysis and the research on how to succeed in a developing country, and it's not giving them resources. It's to make a real change. You start to trade, you start to exchange something of value for another, and then they start to change their countries and their societies and their communities. And I'm a pretty firm believer in that. I've seen a lot of projects fail that have tried to be imposed from the outside, and some impossible things happen when people on the inside are empowered to do and to solve their own problems.
Yeah, I like that. I like the advice that your mentor gave you. And what was the name of the book again?
The
Prosperity
Paradox.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're familiar, if you follow Clayton Christensen and his whole disruption and everything, he's looking at it through the lens of consumers and non-consumers, which is parallels pretty closely the idea of that disruption curve, where you start with non-consumers, like the disk drives is one he uses in his in the innovator's dilemma. Mm-hmm. And he just shows like generation after generation of disk drives getting disrupted because the people who can't afford the $700 or $2,000 disk drive still want a disk drive, so they're non-consumers. And then somebody invents something and sells it to them at $200, and then that goes and that's down to $50. Then it's down to but that's a similar process to entering into a developing economy with a product that serves that economy. And I'm just be citing examples from his book. And in my experience, like going to Guatemala and teaching a local machine shop how to build a cross-flow turbine was a similar thing. Like I've given him the power, and then the idea was I didn't have enough time to finish this, but all the different coffee growers that were part of the group we were down there with were going to pay him to build this. So he's going to have to hire people, and he's going to have to refine the technology and the techniques and everything to build these cross-flow turbines, because they were going to get electricity on their farms, their fincas, through these cross-flow turbines. So that's the progression of progress, I think. Like you empower people locally to give them the knowledge, give them the power and the economic reason, which that has to kind of grow organically. Like you have to see that opportunity. And he does a pretty compelling job of my experience with in Guatemala, these people could buy these. I mean, it wasn't outside of their price range, and it was going to be built locally and maintained and supported. So it could be an industry there. And that's kind of the Clayton Christensen's and the paradox talks about that, how, the people spot when you can look at non-consumers, it's scary because as an established consumer economy, you can run metrics on it. You know how big it is. And when you do a sustaining innovation, you can say, oh yeah, if we add, rear seat heaters to this automobile, then we're going to be just competing. We're going to be just as good as the BMW or, those types of things. You have a lot you can analyze and look at. Where non-consuming, you don't know. When the guy took cell phones into Africa, everybody told him he was crazy. But he did a whole bunch of work there, and now it's a multi-billion-dollar business. And I think he sold in 2005. But there's a whole economy, what's the word? But yeah, the whole group of industry built up around, there's dozens of companies, and that's all because he had the vision to go and make a product that fit those people, that economy, the people, and the need, at least according to Christians, the need was as simple as, an African villager wants to talk to his mother, and that's either a 3-week journey or nothing. Okay, so how valuable is it for that person to talk to their mother? And he based his whole value proposition on that. And then he had to work out different supply chains and different pricing models and stuff, because it wasn't our way of thinking about it. But he did it, and it took a lot of time and effort, but the payoff was actually higher. And there's some statistics, like you can see when you create a new market, you actually earn a lot more, and the benefits to society are huge. So anyway, there's a lot of theory there.
I like that. I like that example. So you mentioned the Clayton Christensen book. Are there any other books that you recommend?
Yeah.
What's the book that you recommend the most to people?
It just depends on what I'm reading. No, but I've got my library here on Audible. So I, like many people, I listen while I drive and do things like that. The ones that I've been really keen on lately, The Prosperity Paradox. I just love anything that I find he's so well reasoned in his approach. The Rational Optimist, and that's he talks about how exchange is kind of the core, and as long as we can exchange, then we will continue to progress as a human society, and why it's rational to be an optimist. And that's what caught me with the title. One of my friends recommended it, and I was like, oh, I want to read that. And then it's, to me, when you have a little pearl, a little diamond there of core value, and then if like in this case, the value of exchange, you can build a whole society rationally from the idea that you can exchange. Like, I can be better at harvesting coconuts than you can be better at weaving mats, and we can exchange, and both of us be better off. It doesn't matter what the price point is. It's just the principle of exchange. And he goes through and kind of lays out our wonderfully complex society from that viewpoint of that lens. And I just found that fascinating, and it resonated really well with me.
What's the author name?
Matt Ridley.
Okay, Matt Ridley.
The other one, Fundamentals of Software Architecture, is a little bit more geeky, but that's a good one. The Gap and the Gain by Don. These are ones that I've read twice, and so there's other ones I'm going back to that one. Anti-Fragile I found to be quite interesting. The concept is by Nassim Taleb, the guy that did The Black Swan, and just that the idea that we need to be building systems that are not just robust, but actually anti-fragile, that thrive under change and under stress. And that it's just a fun word and the fun concept. And then we think about how we train our muscles, we tear them down, but then they get stronger. And we need systems, from my perspective, particularly technology systems, but also social systems that are anti-fragile. Because we know things are going to happen, things are going to break, and
I like it. I like those recommendations. And speaking of systems, and you want robust systems, when is your operating systems for business going to be available to small and medium businesses?
This is a public forum, right? And I have been telling, I'm hopeful that in the spring I'll have a product. There are a couple of paths this could take, and I've talked to one person who's like, we could just go sell this to a $400 million business, and they would buy it. And I'm hesitant to do that for all the dangers that involves when you have a fledgling product, and no product survives first touch with people, right? And so if I do that with a $400 million business and we have real meaningful struggles, that could be really difficult. And because the idea with this is to service small businesses, to give them an opportunity. So my approach right now is going to pick a niche, and I've got a couple in mind, and then it's going to be configured for that niche. So it'll be we'll get 80% there with just the generic, you need accounting, you need marketing, you need this and that. Those functions will be there. And then we pick that niche and we customize it for that niche. So that'll get us like 95% there. And then that, a client can come and a big part of the piece that I still need to write is the no code customization part of it. And that's key because we need to have these brilliant entrepreneurial business owners be able to go in and say, well, actually in my business, we do marketing this way. So I'm going to change this series of, drip emails or drip communications or whatever, and we're going to do it a little different. Or we always use HubSpot or whatever, So if we need that integration there and how do we build that integration very quickly and without having to code it in a customized way. So that's a big piece of what's left to build. So
okay, so sometime next year.
Next year.
Okay. Okay, thanks for that. And it's been so fun talking to you. I could talk about geek out on all this stuff all the time with you. And thank you for your time today. I've got a lightning round of questions I want to get to. These are just fun ones. But what's your favorite candy bar?
Oh boy. They used to have a dark chocolate Toblerone that I love. I love dark chocolate.
Never seen it before.
Yeah, I've had that. I'm sure they had. Maybe it was just a dream. Because I haven't been able to find it recently, but I remember loving that dark chocolate Toblerone. So.
Awesome. Who's your favorite musical artist?
Let's see. I've got a lot of Eric Clapton, and I like U2 a lot. So it kind of shows my age. And I've been listening to a bit of Taylor Swift lately, which is
okay. Jumping on the bandwagon.
A little bit, yeah. Everybody's saying she's so awesome, and so I'm listening to a little bit. And it's fun.
That's great. What's your favorite cereal?
Grape nuts.
Mac or PC?
Linux. So I ran Mac for 10 years, and I love the Mac OS, but I just love being able to tinker with everything that I get with, and I run Ubuntu. And now that we do React Native, I don't have to have a Mac in order to publish iOS apps. So
that's awesome. Google or Microsoft? And that would be Google Workspace, Google Documents, or Microsoft
365.
Yeah.
We are a Google shop.
Okay. Dogs or cats?
We actually just got a cat. So we got a dog and a cat. So I don't know how to choose. Maybe the dog, because he goes running with me.
Okay. Phantom or Les Mis?
Oh, Les Mis, by far.
Awesome. What's something that most people don't know about you?
Something frivolous. So my brother and sister-in-law and their family lived in Beijing. He was a diplomat. And we went and visited them. And I said, we went down the street of gross things. They had a name for it, but it was a street where they fried anything. And I said, okay, my nieces were challenging me. So, okay, I'll eat one of anything that you pick, as long as it's cooked and it won't kill me. So they picked scorpions. And so I've eaten fried scorpions off a street vendor in China.
Wow. That's very daring. It's like fear factor level right there.
It wasn't too bad. It was crunchy.
So where can people find Verisage? And we talked about vSchool. It's vschool.com. And then you mentioned
vschool.io.
Oh, sorry. vschool.io. Verisage custom software, all one word. So 3 words into one.
Yep. .com.
And then any other socials or anything where they can reach out to you, LinkedIn or?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm Guy Harding on LinkedIn. And if you search for Guy Harding, there's 2 of us. Well, there's 2 of us on Google, but I don't know how many there are on LinkedIn, but I'm the one here in Provo. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Guy, for being on the podcast, this episode. on a Monday evening. It's been so fun talking to you. Have I not asked you anything that you want to talk about?
Oh, you've done pretty good. I think if we go to the next level, we're going to be here for 5 hours. So
Okay.
I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much for being generous with your time. And I've had a really good time talking with you tonight, and look forward to seeing this operating system coming out of Verisage Custom Software.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thanks, Guy. Yep. And then would you mind putting that Topo Chico out front? Yeah. And and if you need to take a drink anytime, that's fine. It's good. Someone was joking that it's good ASMR to open that up. See what it sounds like. Oh, that's nice.
That's good.
Put mine there.